These are our two battery packs that we are designing for the SEMA Suzuki project. It's roughly a 56 kilowatt capacity and 400 volt setup. It includes liquid temperature control with the use of custom chill plates, internal contactors for isolation of the power system when not in use, and for safety purposes, we also included a fuse in each of the packs along with Amphenol high voltage disconnects. It will be running an Orion BMS system for both monitoring and control. So this is the bus bars and the connectors I'm making for this battery pack here. And just kind of showing everybody how tight it actually gets. I mean, obviously the bolts ain't in there yet, right? It's still during the mock-up and design phase. But what I wanted to show is how do you make a real tight cable like this. I mean, for the most part, those of you guys who are doing this are real familiar with how to do it. But it takes a little planning to get all the right bends to not kink cables so they can work adequately. So one of the things I do, right, although cable is flexible, right, once you put I guess you would say like a connector on there, right, it crimps on the strands. So what I do with all of my connections is that I pre-bend them, I index them, just to make sure that there isn't any tension on the cable itself, right? So all the strands become aligned, then they become crimped, and then it actually holds its form. Much like this one here, right? You see that bend that it has, it's not stressing the cable out. If anything, if I try to straighten it out, it's gonna pull on the strands and bend them internally. So again, that's the whole idea about pre-bending, right, cables and connections as you go, especially when you're working with like really, really tight areas like this to kind of get going. And the biggest thing is obviously we're always just constrained, right? It's always space constrained. Like if there was enough room, we wouldn't have to do all this. It'd be a lot easier. So either way, I'll show you guys. I'll bend a little bit and see how it kind of turns out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a 90 on this and see if I can show you guys how to do this with one hand. Actually, I'll start it and then I'll just keep going. So you kind of see there, right? You see how I bent it and the cable itself was actually holding its form. And, like everything else, even when you bend metal, there's always like a spring back. So, I put a bend in it, I kind of pushed it against the wood there, and then I actually try to make it do like a complete 180 and just kind of push on it a little bit. Right, and then when I let go, you see how it kind of returns to what its natural shape is kind of gonna be. And then what I do is I'll make sure I put the connector on there, just make sure how I have enough room to cut, right? How to basically, then I'll index it when I go. So you kind of see, right? I put the connector on there, it holds its form. The other thing to note is when you put this on here, right, you could rotate, just go this way and that way, depending on what your angle is. So I have, again, real tight tolerances. So when I take this over, use that tool to crimp it on there, I want to make sure it doesn't move around on me. So this is actually how I want it. I don't want it flipped 180 degrees. I don't want it indexed 90 degrees from this. So usually what I do is I'll draw a line straight across with a marker. That way when I set it up on that piece of equipment, it didn't move on me as I was working. I'm always going to use that line as kind of a guide. The other thing I do is I crimp and bend one piece at a time. So obviously I'm working on that bend right now and I'm working on that crimp. So I want to finish that off, because this is going to come, forward, then down, and then I needed to do another 90 out in this direction. So I do that piece first, pre-bend it, crimp it, right? Then figure out, put my next bend, right? That I'm going to do, put the next bend that's going to go there, right? So then I get a better idea where my length is going to end up. Also with, right, the connectors there also have kind of like a height to them, right? So again, I don't want them too long, I don't want them too short. So I typically tend to install this on there. So when I lay the cable over, I'm able to just kind of mark it with a marker on there. And the same thing, I'll draw a line across it to index it. So when I'm crimping it, there isn't any tension on my cable at all. I mean, I would have showed you all the marks that I had on these, but I put heat shrink tubing on them. But again, all of my cables, right, pre-bent, crimped, and indexed, so that it's just, right, there's no tension, no damage that occurs out of these things. So you see the lines that I have on there, right? That's kind of what I use as guides, again, to make sure it didn't move. And you're gonna see, right, that it kind of just fits right in there and right up there, right? I haven't put the heat shrink tubing on there, or else you wouldn't have been able to see. But again, this cable, right, it holds its form without any tension, right? And there you go, right? Bus bars are great when you could get them in there, but for some stuff, right, you still rely on some battery cable connections.